Greetings, clients. We're doing another video because two important things happened yesterday. And the second one was Tesla had their quarterly earnings call. And I want to talk about how amazing that earnings call was. And so the fourth quarter of 2021 was like a record-breaking quarter for Tesla in terms of deliveries, in terms of productivity, in terms of gross profit. The gross margins on a Tesla in the fourth quarter surpassed the gross margins from all the other big automakers. So they talked about, wow, you can't make an electric vehicle and make a profit on it. Well, Tesla just showed that they could, and they can make a bigger gross profit than the other manufacturers making their internal combustion engine or ICE vehicles. Okay, so and he said, in terms of vehicle production, we comfortably expect to grow vehicle production by 50% a year for the next several years, right? And so and they're doing this production out of two factories, one in Fremont, California, one in Shanghai, China. And he says those two factories are not at capacity yet. We could improve the capacity at those two factories. And they have two other factories, even bigger, coming online imminently. The one in Brandenburg, Germany, and the one in Austin, Texas. So production capacity, they could easily grow by 50% a year. And on the demand side, they cannot even meet the demand. And he said, for this year, we're not planning on bringing out any new models. Talking about the Cybertruck, which I have two on order, so I was kind of a little disappointed to hear about the Roadster, the semi-truck. He said, we're not bringing those out this year because we cannot meet the capacity for the models that we have now. And we're going, full speed ahead, trying to meet demand for these, and we can't, right? So, and if we were to introduce a new model, it would slow us down. We'd have to make changes to the factories and divert resources over to this other one, and there's always a ramp up on a new model. We don't have time to do that. The demand for the vehicles that we make now is insatiable, in particular the Model Y, worldwide. So we're gonna put all our resources to making these models in an attempt to keep up with the insatiable global demand for Teslas. So to me, that was incredibly good news about the incredible growth rates that they have in on the vehicle side. But what was more compelling about the earnings call was that he said that there are three other product lines, you could call them, that are more exciting than vehicles for Tesla. And one of those is energy. And he said the same thing about all three of these. And what he said about energy is it could be bigger than vehicles. And so he's talking about energy storage and energy capture with solar panels and these mega packs and all the iterations of that. He says that's a huge opportunity, and I expect it to be it could be bigger than vehicles down the road. So I just want to imagine this: if Tesla as a stock, if you will, is super compelling, exciting simply from the position of vehicles, what if you add on that it's also an energy company? I mean, that makes it that much more valuable, double. If energy is going to be as big as vehicles, right? And so if vehicles are growing at 50% a year, and energy is going to be bigger, that means it has to catch up. It has to grow faster than that to keep up, because the vehicle production is not a stationary target. So that's super exciting. And the second one he said was full self-driving. And he said this several times. He's like, you don't get it how big full self-driving is going to be. He said it a couple times that full self-driving could be the greatest wealth creator in history, and it's a software upgrade. He goes, and that the it's something that just drops, like when Apple upgrades to Monterey, right? It's just a soft. You already have the computer. You don't have to pay for it. You just get this upgrade, right? And that's what full self-driving is. And all the vehicles that Tesla has been making since, I believe, 2015 or 16 are compatible to receive this upgrade. Okay, they're just waiting for it. And he tries to explain it to him, but I think he gets a little frustrated that people don't see how clearly of how clearly of a huge opportunity this is. And he says, look, it's going to instantly increase the utility of those vehicles by a magnitude of 5, like 5x, right? Because he says, typically a car gets driven maybe 12 hours a week. And with full self-driving, meaning it drives by itself, it could be driven probably 50, 60 hours a week. So that's a 4 to 5x improvement in the utility of that vehicle. So how could that possibly, how would that work, and why is that so exciting? So it's exciting for Tesla because, people will pay for that software upgrade, and maybe they'll pay, I just put a number out, $100 a month for your vehicle to be full self-driving. So you could have a Tesla and you could say, no, I don't want it to be able to drive itself. I don't want to pay that extra $100 a month. I'll just, my Tesla will only be useful to me if I'm in the driver's seat and I'm driving. Someone else might say, yeah, I'll pay the $100 a month so that my vehicle could drive itself. Why would someone do that? Well, think about all the possibilities. And I am only just going to name a few. I mean, it could take your kids to school and pick them up, and you don't have to leave work. And let's say you're like, oh shoot, you're working on a project and you say, darn, I forgot something that I need to get at Home Depot. You don't need to leave. You can just send your car to go get it, right? And think about that capacity. If I think about my car and I drive it to work and it sits in my office parking lot for 8 hours, and then I drive it home and it sits in my garage for 14 hours, it could be working for me during that time. It could drop me off at work, and then my car could go to work. Doing what? Picking people up and taking them places, or picking up people's lunch and taking it to them, or picking up people's groceries and taking it to them, right? And making me money, right? So some people are going to say, yeah, I'll pay the $100 because my test is going to make me another couple $1,000, and it'll pay for my car payment, and it'll pay for that full self-driving monthly charge, and it'll put some money in my pocket. It's like an Airbnb. Airbnb told people, hey, those extra rooms in your house, or that vacation property that you only go to a few times a year, it's sitting there and it could be making you money. And so Airbnb has been this huge, a lot of people have taken advantage of it and realized that they had an asset that could be generating more income for them. So that's what that full self-driving is going to enable, and it's going to generate massive recurring revenue for Tesla. He said, well, one of the downsides, it might create a lot of traffic, because if you imagine that same vehicle is going to be on the road 5 times as much, that's like 5 times more vehicles. So he said, we'll have to figure out some of that, because it probably will create a lot of traffic. But it's going to be an economic boom. It's going to put those dormant assets to work, and the cost of the vehicle is going to be the same, but the value of that vehicle is going to be infinitely higher. So I could see Teslas with full self-driving And that's why I said, when your car will not depreciate, because people will want to buy a Tesla with full self-driving because it could generate an income for them. Okay, so he said that full self-driving will be bigger than the vehicle. Same thing he said about energy. And the third thing he said was, we're working on these humanoid robots. They've affectionately called them Optimus. And in a previous video, a previous quarterly call, they had a picture of them. And they're like a human-sized robot. I think it was about 5'6", 125 pounds, something like that. And it could only go 5 miles an hour. So he said, we made it that way so you could outrun it, and it could lift, I think, 100 pounds. He goes, so that you could outmuscle it and you could outrun it. But he says, we're in a labor shortage right now, and we could solve that. And he said this robot thing could be bigger than vehicles. So when you own Tesla, you own a great vehicle company, and for free, right? And in and of itself, as a vehicle company, it's a great opportunity. But on top of that, you have an energy company, you have a full self-driving company, and you have a humanoid robot company. Okay, so I think that makes Tesla a very compelling business and a stock to own. And those are the big three, but there's other ones like insurance. They offer auto insurance on their Teslas, and some other ancillary business. Another one he talked about was, when we get that energy storage, that power wall in your house, and it could heat your water and run your HVAC, your heating and air conditioning, better than what you have now, and cheaper. He goes, but we don't really have time to work on that, but we'll get to it. So he didn't say that one's going to be bigger than vehicles, but you're getting that for free too when you buy this tremendous vehicle company. So I believe, and I'm going to give you in coming videos evidence to support this, but Tesla is the fat pitch of my career. And what I mean by that, I'm alluding to an analogy that Warren Buffett made. And he used a baseball analogy to explain investing. He said when he was a kid, he read this book by Ted Williams called The Science of Hitting. And Ted Williams was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, hitters in the history of baseball. And in the book, he was very scientific about his approach to batting it. And in the book, he explains that he took the strike zone and he divided it into 4 quadrants, and he determined what was his batting average. 16 quadrants. I don't know if you call them quadrants, but 16 quadrants. He says, when the pitch is in this quadrant, what is my batting average? And he found where his sweet spot was. And so he determined that he's going to look for pitches that are in his sweet spot, because that's where he does best. And that was the key to his success. Now, there's a constraint in that as he's standing there in the batter's box, and if he gets 3 strikes that are strikes but not in his sweet spot, he can't just look at them and wait. He'll get struck out. He'll get called out on strikes. So because of that constraint, sometimes he had to swing it less than the ideal pitch for him. And Warren Buffett says this: there are no called strikes in investing. He said, I could sit in that batter's box and look at investment opportunities as long as I want. I could let 100 of them pass by me. I could let 1,000 of them pass by, just waiting for my fat pitch, just waiting for my sweet spot pitch. And he goes, that's what I do. Okay, and I'm telling you that Tesla is the fat pitch of my career. When I saw that come across the plate, I looked at it and I looked at it and I looked at it and I said, I've never seen a more beautiful pitch than that in my career. It checks all the boxes from every thing I know. And it reminds me of when I was in graduate school at Cal Poly Pomona. I was taking an economics class, and this was like around 2008. And one of my economics professors, he was in, Apple was his fat pitch, and he'd almost every class he'd show something on the board about Apple, and he would just look at it. And I think he would even maybe forget that his responsibility was to teach the class, and he'd just look at it. He was just mesmerized by the beauty of what he saw in Apple. And I mean, basically it was his fat pitch, you know? And in every class he'd show something else about Apple. He was almost speechless when he was looking at it. He was just so blown away by how beautiful it was. Ashwath Damodaran said it was the greatest cash flow generator in the history of the world. And this professor saw it too, and he was right. Apple had an amazing decade from the time that he started looking at it, and it would have been a great investment. And at the time, you know, I saw what he was seeing, but you know, there's this philosophy said you have to be diversified and don't put all your money and all your eggs in one basket. And you know, I've had Apple in the portfolio that whole time, but you know, I've let it get to maybe 5% allocation, and I really haven't let it get much above that. And in hindsight, I wish I would have taken a bigger swing at it. Like Warren Buffett said, when you see that fat pitch, take a big swing at it. So when I saw Tesla, I did take a big swing at it. And as a matter of fact, today, after the earnings call, it's off a little bit, and I'm taking it up close to 25% of the portfolio, because I think over the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be an amazing wealth creator for myself and my clients. And it might have some volatility, but when you see a fat pitch like that, you got to take a big swing at it. That was one of the keys to Warren Buffett's success. He saw Geico. Geico was his fat pitch. Like in 1953 or so, he saw Geico, and he still owns it today, 70 years later. And it's been, if not his biggest, one of the top greatest successes of his career. And he took a big swing, and he put like 25% in it. So I'm going to give you some reasons in upcoming videos why Tesla is such clearly a fat pitch. And I'm going to use Michael Porter. He has these 25 points, and I'm going to give you some quotes from the sages, but suffice it to say that I would encourage you to take a look at that earnings call, and I think I'll attach the presentation from that earnings call, because it was incredible, and that company's in the first inning of an amazing run, I think, over the next decade. Okay, so you guys have a great day.